Welcome to one of the most beautiful places on this planet, the Lofoten Islands. An archipelago nestled above the Arctic Circle in northern Norway. Over the next 10 days, join us on an unforgettable road trip as we explore awe-inspiring hikes, dramatic beaches, and indulge in delicious pastries along the way. We will go over our full itinerary with 2 days in Oslo, followed by 6 days in Lofoten, including an excursion to the remote island of Værøy. And we'll wrap up our adventure with 2 days in Senja, a little further to the north. This journey marks our 43rd country that we have visited as we continue to travel around the world one place at a time. If you're planning your own adventure in Lofoten, we hope to share our tips and experiences with you to help you make the most of your trip. Our journey began in Oslo. We spent 36 hours immersing ourselves in the culture, starting with an unforgettable experience. A traditional Norwegian sauna floating on the fjord with stunning views of the iconic Opera House. We did the shared sauna experience for $30 per person, and it was fun to meet other people from around the world. We also indulged in classic Norwegian treats like the sweet and savory waffle, topped with brown cheese, jam, and sour cream. For a caffeine fix, we stopped by the renowned Tim Wendelboe Cafe before heading to the Norse Folk Museum. This open-air museum is home to over 150 historic buildings from across Norway, including a stunning Norwegian Soph church. We also got a glimpse of life throughout the centuries, with animals grazing among the buildings and a live lefse-making demonstration. Oslo provided the perfect introduction to Norway, setting the stage for the adventure that awaited us in the north. On day 2, in the afternoon, we headed to the airport, where we flew from Oslo up to Evans Airport. There's so many different ways that you can get to Lofoten, but it being September, which is in the off-season, we found this option to be the cheapest and require just a bit more driving from us rather than if we had flown into Solvær. At the airport, we were able to pick up our rental car right away. We highly recommend renting a car to explore. Norway's well-maintained roads make it so easy, as most of the islands are connected by just one road, the E10. As far as currency in Norway, it is the krona, but we found that most places used a cashless system, so we really didn't deal with much currency. Although September did have a lot of rain and some storms, the off-season did mean fewer crowds, allowing us to experience Lofoten's beauty mostly in peace. Most importantly, everyone we met was incredibly friendly, and Norwegians speak excellent English, so we never faced any language barriers. We drove from Evans Airport to Solvær, which was a really pretty 2-hour and 40-minute drive with lots of tunnels. A lot of the E10 is connected by long tunnels and bridges to connect the islands together. And we arrived in Solvær just as it was starting to get dark, where we stocked up on groceries, where we found some interesting new things to try, and I think because we were tired, we were very fascinated by the machine that slices the bread fresh for you. The total cost of groceries was $96 out of the total $600 that we spent on food over the 10-day trip. Leaving Solvær, we drove 30 minutes to Henningsvær and checked into the Fast Hotel, a budget-friendly option we found last minute, and we were ready to get some rest and start exploring Lofoten the next day. Day 3 started early with us driving into Henningsvær, which is a small village that is spread across a few teeny islands that are connected by bridges. We drove straight for the iconic football pitch, which is located on its own little island. It was so surreal to be here because this is one of the first locations we saw that really put Lofoten on our radar. It was just such a surreal feeling to finally be standing on this famous football pitch, and we enjoyed sunrise here. Next, we drove to the edge of the town and did the E10 Hike, which is a relatively short but steep 1.7 mile round-trip 2-hour hike. While we got beautiful views on the hike up and down, unfortunately, the fog covered our view at the top. But that's just a part of Lofoten's unpredictable weather. You win some, you lose some. After the hike, we had worked up an appetite and grabbed some amazing cinnamon buns at a gorgeous bakery and coffee shop. Do you like it? And next we walked through town and found another cozy cafe that's known for its handmade candles and very cozy atmosphere. And of course, we got some more treats. In the afternoon, we drove about an hour from Henningsvær to the Lofoten Viking Museum to learn about the area's Viking history. While we found the museum a bit lacking in depth, the reconstruction of the Viking longhouse was definitely impressive. However, with an entry fee of $18 per person, we felt it didn't quite offer the value we expected. Afterward, we headed to Haukland Beach and Uteklev Beach. Both breathtaking spots, just a short drive through a tunnel from each other. While we planned to camp that night at the beach, the weather did not cooperate. So we ended up waiting out the rain by cozying up in our car for the night. There are bathrooms available at both beaches here, although the bathroom at Haukland Beach does charge a couple krona per use. On day 4, we woke up after a rainy night spent in our car. And we were the first ones on the trail for the short but rewarding Mannen hike. Along the way, we encountered some sheep that could not care less about us. And from the top, we were treated to the stunning views of Haukland Beach. Next, we drove to Nusfjord. The drive there is itself worth turning off of the E10, with stunning views along the way. And Nusfjord itself is one of the best preserved fishing villages in Norway. Today, it is more of a living museum, with an entrance fee of $9 per person USD. As we strolled through the town, we learned about Norway's cod fishing industry, a centuries-old tradition that remains vital to the region's economy and culture. With villages like Nusfjord, which was once a bustling center for cod processing, when the cod would spawn in the waters around Lofoten from January to April. In the village, we stopped at a charming bakery that has been around for over 100 years. Here we sampled a couple of their pastries, which I will probably pronounce very wrong. But the first one we tried was a skålbrød, which is vanilla cream with coconut. And the second pastry we tried was a solskimsboll, which is a cinnamon roll with vanilla cream. Both pastries were about $6.50. For lunch, we headed to a historic old general store turned eatery, where we enjoyed their traditional fish soup while watching the seagulls over the harbor. In this little town square, there is also a place I have heard is great to get pizza, but it was closed while we were there. Walking around the little village was the perfect way to soak in the atmosphere. As we left Nusfjord, the weather took a turn for the worse, and we realized pretty quickly that flexibility would be key on this trip. We highly recommend downloading the Norwegian YR Weather app to stay up to date and to keep an eye on the weather so that you can adjust your plans and fit the hikes in whenever the rain finally lets up. Changing up our plans, we decided to spend the afternoon at a resort, warming up in one of their cozy saunas and taking a plunge into the Norwegian Sea for a swim.
As soon as I walk outside, I'm cold.
It turned out to be one of our favorite experiences of the entire trip. Even though we weren't guests at the resort, we were able to pay $66 to access the sauna, which was totally worth it. The swim was very refreshing, though we had to keep an eye out for some of the jellyfish that will sting you. And we saw some float by as we dipped into the chilly waters. While we were waiting for the sauna to warm up because the hotel staff have to turn it on and give it a chance to get warm, we crossed a bridge passing the iconic viewpoint on the island of Hamnøy to the nearby island of Sakrisøy to grab a bite to eat at Anita's Seafood. The spot is famous for its fish burger and its unique decor, a chandelier made out of stockfish hanging from the ceiling. Stockfish is dried Arctic cod that's naturally preserved by the salty ocean air, a traditional method that has been used in Lofoten for over 1,000 years, dating back to the Vikings. The fish is hung to dry with no preservatives, and before serving, it's rehydrated to restore its flavor. And I have to say that the fish burger was delicious. We decided to share one burger because the cost was $20.
But delicious.
We then crossed a few more bridges until we arrived at the island of Reine, where we checked into our hotel for the night. And this turned out to be one of the most unique experiences of the entire trip. We had the privilege of staying in a rorbuer, a traditional fisherman's hut built right over the water on the island of Reine, at the Reine rorbuer by classic Norwegian hotels. Each of the fishermen's cabins here has been restored from the original dwelling, blending rustic charm with modern comfort. The views were absolutely breathtaking, and it was so surreal to hear the waves gently lapping across the shore right beneath our feet. Our rorbuer was fully equipped with a kitchen, 2 bedrooms, a cozy living room, and it provided the perfect setting to relax out of the storm. Once we got unpacked and ready, we made our way up to the hotel restaurant, where we enjoyed the best dinner of the entire trip. Housed in an 18th century building, this restaurant offers a very cozy atmosphere. We were so excited to try the restaurant's traditional dishes, crafted with local ingredients that change with each season. Our meal began with 2 adventurous appetizers: smoked whale, which was thin, black, and salty, and doesn't show up very well on the camera. And then we had a crispy cod tongue. Both dishes really pushed us outside of our culinary boundaries. For the main course, we indulged in oven-baked cod and reindeer-topped sirloin. Both were absolutely outstanding, bringing the perfect end to day 4 in Lofoten. We started day 5 with breakfast at the hotel, and we were honestly blown away by the spread. There were lots of traditional items to try, and things I've never had for breakfast before, like shrimp salad. And it was so great to fuel up, because today the weather finally cooperated with us enough to finally get in a hike. In the afternoon, we set out on the Ryten Hike, a 4.5-mile out and back trail that begins near Reinebringen, where we paid for parking. Although the trail was muddy, it quickly became one of the highlights of our trip. There were very strong winds on the hike up, and it rained on us a couple times, but once we got to the top, the views of Klattvika Beach with the white sand below us was truly stunning. On our hike down, we tried one of Norway's favorite hiking treats. It's like a Kit Kat, but I have to say the chocolate is so much better. So definitely pick up a few of these from the grocery store or the airport to throw into your bag to have a little snack on your hikes. On the drive back to Reine, we passed over a famous bridge with the striking pointed peak of Flagstad Mountain looming in the background. We concluded our day back at our stay, where we took refuge from the storm that had rolled in and made ourselves a little supper. We woke up on day 6 greeted with more storms. So we found refuge at a coffee shop that is right next to the hotel, where we enjoyed a cup of coffee and a delicious peanut butter chocolate dessert while we waited for the clouds to clear. Our goal was to conquer Lofoten's most famous hike, Reinebringen, located right on the edge of Reine. As soon as the weather showed signs of improvement, we drove to the limited parking on the edge of town, where we began walking along the paved path that leads to the start of the trail, which is situated right next to a waterfall. Although the hike was relatively short, only about 2 kilometers round trip, it's no easy feat, with 1,976 steps of various sizes to climb. It felt like a Nordic-style Stairmaster workout, gaining nearly 1,600 feet in elevation. We recommend budgeting at least 2 hours for this hike. We actually did this hike twice. The first time the visibility was 0 and we couldn't see a thing. But after our second attempt, the clouds finally parted, revealing breathtaking views of Reine, Sakrisøy, and Hamnøy, all connected by bridges. With the mountains in the background, it was an absolutely magical spot. But be cautious here. There are sheer drop-offs all around us, and the gusty winds can be very fierce. We then hiked down the mountain, packed up from our hotel, and then that evening we got in line to hop on a ferry to a new location. We drove onto the ferry, which surprisingly you have to back onto backwards. Then we parked our car and headed upstairs to the lobby area that has lots of seating and refreshments. And after about an hour's boat ride, we made it to Værøy for the night. Checked into our hotel, and we're ready for adventure next day. On day 7, we woke up with a full day to explore the beautiful island of Værøy. After a short drive from our hotel, we've reached the trailhead of Han, a peaceful hike that offers breathtaking views. Much of the trail follows a road, making it relatively easy, and it takes about an hour to reach the top. The area was historically known for eagle hunting, as locals would track eagles hiding in the rocky cliffs. At the summit, we were surprised to find drop-offs on all sides, so make sure to be extra careful here. The scenery, though, was nothing short of otherworldly, with views that made us feel like we were on a different planet. After descending down the mountain, we explored the island further. Discovering a charming little harbor. And then we drove up a rugged mountain road, which led us to a stunning area where we could drive along the island's edge. From here, we had a clear view of the main Lofoten Island. There were not a lot of options for stays on this teeny island, but the hotel we picked had a shared kitchen where we were able to make food that night because the only restaurant on the island was very expensive. However, we had such an unforgettable day in this location. On day 8, we woke to another beautiful sunny morning. With some time before the ferry arrived to take us back to the mainland, we decided to explore the island a little bit more. First, we stopped at a cafe, hoping to enjoy a pastry and coffee, but it was closed for the day since it was Sunday. Undeterred, we took a leisurely walk along the harbor where cars were lined up for the ferry. The water here was so crystal clear that we could see sea urchins clinging to the rocks beneath the surface. It was a peaceful spot that was perfect for watching the boats pass by. When the ferry did arrive, we hopped back in our car and drove aboard. The ferry ride itself is free, and with its open-air viewing deck, it felt more like a scenic boat tour as we admired the surrounding landscapes. We decided to have lunch on the ferry, given the high cost of dining out in Norway, where we got 2 hot dogs and 2 coffees for a total of $20. Once we reached the mainland, we drove the short distance to a charming village that marks the end of the E10 highway. With its name consisting of just one letter, sits at the southernmost tip of the Lofoten Islands, surrounded by breathtaking scenery. It's a hidden gem, offering a quiet, picturesque retreat that perfectly captures the beauty of the region. Here we stayed at our second rorbuer of the trip, at rorbuer, a picturesque fisherman's cabin beautifully situated on the edge of the Lofoten Peninsula. The cabin was a beautiful blend of traditional charm and comfort, complete with a full kitchen. Our favorite part was the views out of the cabin that was sitting over top of the water. We were excited to try the local cuisine at the restaurant, but as luck would have it, it was closed on Sundays, which was the day we arrived. However, the incredibly kind staff went out of their way to bring us the ingredients to make our own fish soup with halibut bone broth. This was one of the highlights of our stay. I made the soup, and we ended up taking it out onto our private balcony overlooking the water, where we were just able to enjoy the serene surroundings. On day 9, we woke up in awe and kicked off with a delicious breakfast at the hotel's main building. This charming building has a rich history, dating back to the 1800s, where it served as a fish receiving station and stockfish warehouse. After breakfast, we spent the morning exploring the local museum, diving into the village's fascinating fishing heritage. A standout moment, though, was trying the cod liver oil, which was once the region's main export.
3, 2, 1.
While it wasn't exactly to my taste, I do have to say I appreciate the health benefits. To wash it down, we visited the renowned bakery within the Living Museum, where we treated ourselves to what are considered the world's best cinnamon buns, along with freshly baked bread in a traditional stone oven dating back to 1878. We then embarked on the very long drive ahead of us, 7.5 hours from to Senja, our final destination of the trip. Although not technically part of Lofoten, this area just a few hours from the Evans airport was one we could not pass up during our time in northern Norway. The journey itself was worth every minute, as Senja's dramatic beauty unfolded all around us, as it was full on fall and there was already snow on the mountaintops. And we were even fortunate enough to spot a wild herd of caribou along the way. When we arrived in Senja, we had originally planned to camp, but with the rain and the winds picking up, we decided to book a last-minute stay at Skoga House for just under $100 a night for a more comfortable night. On day 10, we woke up and drove to Fjordgard near the Hesten trailhead. Before setting off, we stopped by the Segla restaurant, where we grabbed some delicious fish and chips while we waited for the rain to pass. The cost was $55 for 2 meals and 2 coffees, but I have to say they have really nice restrooms here. Once the weather cleared, we tackled the relatively short but steep hike to an incredible viewpoint, one of the best of our lives, offering panoramic views of some of Norway's most dramatic landscapes. As the sun began to set, we finally set up our camping gear, something we've been carrying with us the whole trip, but hadn't had a chance to use until now. However, the wind and the rain soon picked up, and in the middle of the night, after our tent had collapsed on us twice, we made the decision to hike down in the dark. On the way down, we were lucky enough to glimpse the northern lights dancing in the sky behind the clouds. We ended the night in the warmth and comfort of our car, thankful for the adventure, but happy to be out of the storm. On our final day, we reluctantly made it back to Evans Airport, savoring our very last moments in Lofoten. The drive back was stunning, with snow on the mountain peaks and all the leaves turned a golden color for fall. We sampled some dried stockfish snacks from a local grocery store. On our drive back, a true taste of the region.
It's kind of like beef jerky, but it's fish.
Is it bad? Or it's not bad?
Before we caught a flight back to Oslo, where we then went to Stockholm for a 48-hour adventure. From charming streets to delicious pastries, we soaked in the Scandinavian experience before we headed home. As far as budget for the trip, we spent $1,272 on transportation. That included the car, the ferry, and the tram that we took to get around Oslo. Our total cost for lodging was $1,284. Food was around $600. Our cost for attractions, which would include our entrance to the museums, our tickets to do the sauna, our total cost came out to $262. So our cost, not including flights, came out to $3,418 for 10 days in Norway. We hope this video has helped you plan your 10-day journey through Lofoten. Whether you're craving scenic hikes, local delicacies, or just unforgettable adventures, we hope this guide inspires you to make your own trip of a lifetime. And we hope to see you in the next one soon.